Does this actually deserve all the hype?
Expedition 33 is a new game that came out last week and has been received with the utmost enthusiasm. It's been getting glazed out the wazoo, a bukkake of compliments and accolades.
I've heard about this game. I saw a streamer play it yesterday. My god, it looks nice. I'm not gonna hold you to it. Maybe the hype is unwarranted, and hopefully it is deserving of the hype. But
I believe it's one of the highest rated user scores in all of
right now it's a 9 out of 10.
history, and also just one of the highest rated games ever in general. And for a lot of people, this came out of nowhere, like an RKO. People talking about it like it was a surprise that flew under the radar no one had heard of. And that may be true for most people, but I'm not most people.
He knew.
I've had my eyes glued to this puppy for the last 8 or
He
so
knew
months
the
since
lore.
the very first trailer. It just seemed like the kind of game that would tickle all my favorite neurons. So I've had my peepers on it, and I expected big things from it. And it blew all of my expectations
And big it did.
out of the water. This game deserves all the hype and all of the success that it's receiving
Yes!
and more. Whatever you're expecting from all
Might
of
fuck
the
around and find out. I
you
cannot
get.
lie. How much is it? Let me check really fast. It's $44.99. That's actually not even bad.
Success that it's receiving and more. Whatever you're expecting from all of the headlines, you get more. I couldn't imagine a game hooking me like this at my age. Now,
Dude, I don't know any of the backstory. The visuals are insane, bruh. I would have to imagine they're using Unreal Engine 5, but it looks so good, bro.
now, I talk about myself like I'm some kind of geriatric fossil. I'm 30 years old, but I have not been hooked by a game like this in years. The last time I was so invested in a game where I would go around talking to every single character I could find in it was Mass Effect 2. And the last time that I was this addicted to a game, just wanting to play it all the time, was with Elden Ring. That's pretty good company to be in for both of those categories. This game is something special, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of people talking about how impressive it is that such a small studio made it. It's impressive by any metric, but the fact that a studio of only like 30 people made this is...
A studio of 30 people made this game? I would not be surprised if a game like this became Game of the Year or won some kind of award when that time comes.
mind-boggling. I don't even know how it's possible. Now, of course, they did use like outside contractors, but the core studio is only like 30 or so people. The team is
That's still impressive.
unbelievably talented. It's their first game together as a studio, and they hit an absolute grand
It's their first game.
salami here. This
What?
shit is in slapper. I mean, this was... I couldn't be more happy with this game. So let's get into it. First and foremost, this does everything you want to see from modern gaming. Where right now the trend is make games more expensive for less content and then charge more later to like fix the game or make better content for it with DLCs and shit. This bucks that trend, and it's actually a cheaper game for more content. So it's a
I mean, I'd be thinking $44.99 is not cheap whatsoever. You're correct to some degree, but the average cost of a game right now is $70. $44.99 is absolutely positively phenomenal. I might actually spend. I'm not holding
$45 game for about 60 hours worth of extremely high quality content. Even the side quests in this game are better than most games' main story.
Wow.
Like this, again, this is one of the few games where I couldn't help but start doing like 100% completion because it is just that good. Anyway, let's get into the game directly, the actual spaghetti and meatballs. Expedition 33 is a turn-based RPG with one of the best stories I've seen in gaming, fucking period. Now, I know it being turn-based has just made a lot of people roll their eyes and they're considering leaving the video because you just can't imagine stomaching the boring turn-based combat system.
It's not even bad, though. It's still interactive. It's not like you have hands off your controller and it's playing for you. You just make decisions. No, dude. It's interactive.
An age that you think is outdated and archaic. You know, you're sitting there going, what the fart, dude? Turn-based? No thanks. I think you're a fucking goober for that take, and let me go ahead and try and sell you on this being different than whatever you're expecting from turn-based games. This game is significantly more interactive with its turn-based system.
What'd I say?
Thanks to parrying and dodging. You'll see some people make the comparison to Souls games. I think that is way overblown. This has nothing in common with Souls games just because there's dodging and parrying. But it does make the combat feel a lot better because instead of being sitting around waiting for the other enemy or for the enemy to attack you and you either have to like hope for RNG for a miss, or you set up a turn so that way you can block or mitigate the damage. This doesn't have that. If you are good at this game, you can always forever take 0 damage through dodging and parrying. And there's also counters and another thing called gradients. So there's a lot of skill expression here where the parry timing and the dodge window is unforgiving. Assuming you play on expert. Normal, it's a lot more forgiving, but on expert, it is tight timing. Like, the parry timing in here isn't quite to Sekiro's level of unforgivingness, but it is not easy. Like, the parry window demands that you be actually good at this game.
So, for people that play FPS games and Battle Royale multiplayer games that require you to have impeccable reaction speed, this might be a good game to play on expert mode. I want to enjoy the game, so I don't know how that would go if I'm on expert mode. First time on turn-based, not gonna lie. I've never been interested in turn-based, but the way the game flowed, the way the game is, my god, it looks awesome.
Instead of just like some fucking lobotomite that's hammering parry, just spamming it. Dodging is a little more forgiving, but even that is still difficult. Because the enemy's attacks, like their actual arsenal of moves, is so well designed. The combat is flashy, and it is interactive. Like, I know people have been seeing the quick time events. When you use a move, you do have like a timing window. If you hit a perfect, it'll help you out with that move and what it does. But the quick time events aren't the actual interactive nature of the game. That's just there as kind of like a little bonus, a cherry on top to keep you invested on both offense and defense. And it is something nice. It adds more depth to it. But the actual bread and butter of the interactivity of the turn-based is in the dodging and the parrying. Because, again, if you are just good, you can be unkillable by everything in the game, fundamentally. And another thing is the build variety. There are so many builds for your party that you can run.
Okay, the thing that I might struggle with is the skill tree shit. I've never been good with games that have a skill tree, or maybe the builds might be something different, but I think it's pretty complicated for me because I don't play games with a skill tree, or I haven't played a game with a skill tree in a little while, to be honest. So at first glance, something like that does seem pretty fucking complicated for me, but I'm not so sure.
Is mind-boggling.
I'd have to try.
Just making builds for my characters. So you build through things called pictos. So you can unlock skills, sure, but the main bread and butter of a build is the pictos, which are these cards that you'll pick up throughout the world or through fights that'll do things like crit on burn. So if you burn an enemy, you'll get like an increased percentage chance of critting, or it'll do like completely game-changing things. Like, there's a really fun synergy with something called auto death, where if you equip that picto, your character will instantly die. But then there's another picto called second chance, which will instantly revive them. And then there's buffs you can give your whole team if a character dies. So what you do is you put auto death on a character that gives out all of these buffs to your party, and then that character revives, and just everyone's got these buffs, and now everyone's super fucking strong.
So it's just like perks. Cool.
Creativity to the builds here, and it changes from character to character with what you want to do for them. There's also a free aim mechanic with all of your characters where you can turn it into a third-person shooter for the cost of AP, where you can target weak spots on the enemies, or I even made an entire build around free aim for one of my characters, where he was just chunking like a fucking Gatling gun, where he's recharging his AP thanks to the pictos I put on there. So I'm just constantly shooting over and over and over again, just stacking up millions of damage. Like, I just love how much flexibility there is with builds in this game. I was hitting over 100 million damage by the end, just through so many different pictos and combinations of skills. It was just actually super fun to engage with this system in a meaningful way. Like, there's so much min-maxing here and just so much meat on its bones. So I really think this is the best turn-based system. For, like, in this genre, I really think this is the...
Is it going to change reality? Will turn-based games from here on out be like this game?
That is the question.
Absolute cream of the crop. So, for people that don't like turn-based, I think you're doing yourself
Is this a pivot?
by just writing this one off because of that. This is an experience that I really think will resonate with anyone who gives it a chance. It is just a beautiful story.
Beautiful.
It's one of the most visually impressive games I've ever seen. The art design, like the direction,
spoils.
Oh my god. It is fucking cinema. Like, absolute peak. The cutscenes are hype.
The cutscenes are crazy.
See, I don't want to spoil it for myself, but I was still watching it anyways.
My goodness.
I wish actual movies, TV shows were made like the cutscenes, just full on shit. Because it was so well. What would you call that? Animation or 3D? Because that shit was amazing, bro. It was so crystal.
The enemies look incredible and they're super
Insane,
creative.
yeah.
The world, the environment, every zone you visit. So like there's this overworld. So when you're walking through the map, you'll find like a ton of different like enemies to encounter, like bosses, as well as like different zones, and all of them are so visually interesting and just unreal, like breathtaking. And the music, holy shit, the music in this game. This is
I just seen the soundtrack, $20. But if it's good music, makes sense.
a 100% shoe in to win best OST this year. There is no game that I think will even come close.
Let's see if it's on Spotify.
It's on Spotify. Oh,
Bro, the entire fucking $20 shit is on Spotify.
Let me add this shit.
Is one of the best. I would comfortably put this up there with Nier. This is 100% a soundtrack that's going to be winning a lot of awards that it deserves, and it will be a soundtrack that I think will be talked about.
You know, my grandmother is a musician, and if it's really good, I might show her it, and hopefully she can give me her opinions on it, because her ears are of the expertise.
For years to come. Now, I want to give you like the overview of the story without any spoilers, because I really don't want to
Thank God. Thank you.
even drop
Thank
like,
you, sir.
the tiniest breadcrumb of a spoiler here. So in a nutshell, the story takes place in a world where people live in a place called Lumiere, and there is a
Lumia,
That's how it sounds.
welcome to the land that we call Lumia.
That's what I
where people live
think of.
in a place called Lumiere, and there is a giant monolith with a giant creature, the paintress, sitting in front of it, and every year she paints a number on that monolith. After a year, that number gets erased and everyone of that age dies.
Oh, no.
Every year, the number gets lower. So, if you've got
Damn.
your thinking caps on, you'll recognize that there's a certain amount of time left for these inhabitants of this world to survive. So, they go on these expeditions to try and kill the paintress so she stops painting those numbers
Fuck
and have
her.
everyone of that age just evaporating. It's gone on for many, many years, and no one's successfully been able to kill her, so the society starts to just...
So it's kind of like the trope we all know and love in anime, where you get sucked out of your world to go to the new world, and you're expected to defeat the Demon Lord. Because the Demon Lord
For years and decades have been tormenting our world. And you have to defeat him in order to save us.
So that's basically what's going on. Got it.
that this is a way of life, so people live under the assumption that they only get to spend a handful of years with their kids because they're dying at the age of like 34, 35. They're just getting fucking snapped out of existence because of the paintress painting that number on the monolith. We follow Expedition 33, our main character being Gustav, as we venture out to try and kill the paintress. Everyone on the expedition only has a year left for the most part, and they want to put a stop to this cycle so that way people can finally live. There's nothing but tragedy in this world because of the paintress, and they want to put it into it.
Fuck
They
the
also want to
paintress.
understand why. What's it all for? Why is the paintress doing this? It's just
This is gonna be such a deep story. Oh my goodness.
incredible. I think this story will hook you within the first 30 minutes. This
Buddy, I'm already hooked. From your video, this is a secondary source.
has one of the best intros in any game I've ever seen. This is actually up there with like the first Last of Us in terms of emotional,
Oh, wow.
hard-hitting introductions to a game. I think people will immediately get invested into this world and its characters. It is one of the best written games I can think of off the top of my head in the modern age. I love the story. It doesn't have any cheesy cliche writing. Characters aren't super quippy for the sake of like these really silly jokes. Like, yes, there's some comedic moments here, but they're few and far between, so when the comedy is there, it actually hits. This is finally a game that doesn't just follow the same formula of writing that everything else does, where it's just all so safe and Weenie Hut Jr. This is a game that's not afraid to be dark. It's not afraid to be a slow burn and buildup of tension and anxiety and mystery. It doesn't just fucking vomit out everything about its world immediately and all of its exposition, it is totally fine to let you wait 20, 23, 25 hours before you finally get most of the pieces of the puzzle to this mystery and this world that you're in. And it feels so good when you do finally get that information. And as it builds up to it, it keeps feeding you these tiddlywinks, so you start coming up with your own theories on what's going on and what it all means. It is so good. The writing in this game is superb. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. None of the characters are unlikable. There is not a single character in this game.
There's not a single character. How about the paintress? Fuck her, right?
I didn't love. There is pretty much nothing I dislike in this game. I had early complaints about like the movement being a little clunky, but the game seems to lead into that in a way that it actually kind of complements it. So the movement is almost identical to Only Up. And I mean that genuinely. Like the sprinting and the jumping is pretty much one-to-one. They even have little side quests where you do Only Up courses at these places called gestural beaches, and you get rewards for completing the Only Up mini-games. So it seems like they knew that, leaned into it, and the way the world is designed, like the map's actually set up, I don't think it's ever like a detriment that the movement isn't super clean. Like, it does feel a little janky with the movement, but because of the way they've designed all the maps, it works. So, like, by the mid-game, I no longer had that complaint because everything felt fine with it. It wasn't, like, inhibiting my enjoyment of exploring or anything. Like, I do think there is definitely a way they could have cleaned up the movement, but again, it's not even really a complaint because they were able to utilize it well, and I had a lot of fun with the Only Up components. I also really did have a problem early on with the subtitles always having a blur on them. I really wish I could have turned that off.
I don't want subtitles at all. I don't get this. So I seen a post on Twitter from, I think, an NFL player on the Ravens saying, "You're weird if you don't have subtitles on your TV." Now, I was like, huh, what are we talking about here? We're talking about subbed? Because I'll watch a subbed anime with subtitles 100 times out of 100. If you need subtitles for English, there's room for concern. Is there not? Why is my question. Why would you need subtitles for a language you speak?
I don't know why. That was just a little pet peeve of mine, having blurs on subtitles. Well, the subtitles aren't blurred, but like the background on subtitles blurring the things.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yep.
I don't know. I just don't really like that all that much. But obviously, that's like the smallest possible complaint you could ever have for something. The only other thing that wasn't like perfect was the lip syncing. The lip syncing was not amazing at points. I think during all the cutscenes it was totally fine and great, but during like a lot of the side stuff you'd notice the lip syncing wasn't always matching, which, again, super tiny complaint. Like this game is so close to perfect actually, to the point where I almost feel bad for Sandfall Interactive, the developers here, because they have made something so unbelievably good that their next project is going to have
pale in comparison. An analogy I can come up with is when Tyler, the creator, made Igor, people expected the next album to be better. Buddy, no. Igor was the best. Everything after Igor isn't going to be as good as Igor, and you should know that. So, before this studio makes another game, let's just consciously, subconsciously know that this game is their best game. And the games proceeding from this game are not going to be as good. This is a masterclass.
So many eyes and such high expectations on it. I really don't know how you can even top a game like this. I have a lot of faith in this team now because of how good this game is, but man, it is a daunting task to have something this good as your first project.
Oh.
Like, there's so little to improve on. It really is that close to just being the perfect turn-based RPG experience. I love this game. I think this is easily a Game of the Year contender. Easily.
That's what I said.
Game of the Year. If it's not in the conversation for Game of the Year, something is truly wrong with the...
Well, to be honest, these reward thingas always are like this. You thought Travis Scott selling 500,000 copies of his album for album of the year wasn't... Whoa, rap album of the year. Travis Scott breaking every possible analytic record in the music industry and still didn't win a Grammy. I would not be surprised if this game... Sorry for coming up with a lot of analogies, but I would not be surprised if this game didn't win Game of the Year because the award system is just Makes you want to rip your fucking hair out.
Industry. It is corrupt and foul, rotten to the core.
What I said.
I absolutely love this game. It is comfortably in the top 20 best games I've ever played. It is in my top 20 favorite games of all time. I love Expedition 33. I could gush about this for hours, like actually talking about the story.
I want to play
I
him.
don't wanna get into spoilers or anything, but there's just so much to unpack with it, so much to talk about. It's such a beautifully tragic, enthralling experience. So, yes, I think this game lives up to the hype. I think it exceeds it in every possible aspect.
If Mr. Charles himself is glazing a game this hard, woo!
It has to be good, right?
Expedition 33 is a masterpiece. That's about it. So, yeah.
See ya. W Expedition 33. Big ups. Big ups. Oh. I gotta play that game, motherfucker, please. Let's go. Jesus, man. I'll see what I can do, man. Hopefully I can get it soon, man. W Expedition 33 and the studio who created it. But again, subconsciously just know that the games preceding Expedition 33 are not going to be its best games. Just know that. Keep that in the back of your mind.